Hi, this is Kevin Trainer. Welcome to my tutorial on installing Anaconda and PyCharm on macOS. I'm making this tutorial video just at the beginning of the summer semester 2017. And it's going to be first used for a Python course at the University of Illinois. But I'm expecting it to have a longer life than that, maybe as long as a year. And in that time, several things will change. It'll be used for different courses in different semesters and probably at different universities. Okay. And the versions of software are likely to shift. Okay. So as I talk my way through this, I'm going to show you um, what needs to be done right now in order to set up the computing environment on your machine. But I'm going to kind of give you hints that if you find, say, newer versions of things, I'll give you hints about whether or not to take them and get a newer version than we happen to see right now today. Okay. Um, so for the Python course, we're going to be using Anaconda. Um, Anaconda is an open data science platform. Um, it is a bunch of Python code and a Python interpreter and all that kind of stuff. And it's important that we have this because there are a lot of versions of Python, and there are a lot of Python code libraries, and some of them are inconsistent with each other. And Anaconda does a very good job of making this, um, giving us an opportunity to choose a consistent set of Python related tools and to install them in a pretty easy way. So we're going to install that. That'll be the first thing that we do. The next thing we're going to do is that we're going to install the PyCharm IDE. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. And that's where we're going to be spending a lot of time in our course because this is a place where we're going to do the majority of our Python coding and testing and whatnot. Okay? And there are a couple different versions of PyCharm that you can install, and I'll talk you through the choice of those when we get to that. Okay? So first of all, I want you to know that I'm using a brand new fresh copy of macOS here. And if we want to know what version it is today, we can look at About This Mac. And it says it's macOS Sierra version 10.12.4. Okay? So, for instance, if you have a Mac, then this is the tutorial video for you. If you're on Windows, then you want to find my other tutorial. And if you have a Mac and you check the version and it's well behind this, this would be a good time to update it. Okay? The software is going to work the best if you update it. Okay, if you update the OS before you do all these installs. That's what I just did for my virtual machine. Okay. Okay, so in my course weekly schedule for week 1, this is a course starting on May 18th. We have an activity computing set up, and we have installing Anaconda and PyCharm, and we can get the link to Anaconda just by clicking on the Anaconda link, right? So that's what I'm going to have you do. If you're in a different course, then there'll be a link for you somewhere that's going to take you to the a download page. It looks like the download page is at www.continuum.com linux.io/downloads. Okay. So there's a pretty good description here of what Anaconda is. Here you can do a download for Windows, download for macOS, or download for Linux. I'm encouraging students in my classes to use either a recent install of or a recent update of Windows 10, or in this case, since you're on the macOS tutorial, a recent install of or update of macOS. Linux is possible, but I'm not going to have tutorials for the Linux version. But if you're an old Linux hand, maybe you can figure it out yourself. So I think I've said in the instructions, if you want to use the Linux version of all this stuff, to contact me first. But I just want to make sure that you're able to do this with a little bit less technical support from me and the rest of the world. Okay, so I'm going to click on the download for macOS, and now we see that it's for macOS. Okay, macOS 10.12.2 users. To prevent permissions problem, we recommend that you upgrade to macOS 10.12.3 or later. As I recall, we just had 10.12.4, so that's good. Okay, so it really is important to have the most recent version of the operating system. And this is Anaconda version 4.3.1. Okay, now if you're using this, even tomorrow, you could have a later version of Anaconda available. You're going to do well so long as you're not downloading anything earlier than this 4.3.1. Okay, if you have the option to download a later version of it, then that's going to be fine. All right. There are two general flavors of Python. There's Python version 2 and Python version 3. And in my courses, we only use Python version 3. There are some significant differences, even in the basic syntax of the language, between Python 2 and 3. And this really held up the adoption of Python for a long time. And as Python 3 has taken off in the last couple of years, it really, people are really pretty well committed to 3. So don't fool with Python version 2. We're going to download the graphical installer for Python 3.6. Now, that's what's available today. By the time that you get here, it might be Python 3.7 or Python 4.1 or Python 5.1.9.2. As long as it's 3.6 or higher, you're in great shape. Okay? I'm doing 64-bit. I have a 64-bit operating system on my machine. It can tell that I have a 64-bit operating system on my machine. I'm hoping that you do too. If you don't and you have a 32-bit operating system, it's probably going to be showing you that as your option. So right now I'm going to click on the graphical installer. If you look over here, it says to download the graphical installer, and double click the downloaded .pkg file and follow the instructions. Great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this to start the download, and you can probably see that that's working. They always want to know who you are. So for this course, I'm trainer 1 at illinois.edu because I'm teaching this particular course at Illinois. Oh, this is great. The cheat sheet is kind of a nice document. I have the cheat sheet already. But say you want the cheat sheet because it's a nice, I think it's a PDF. It just kind of helps to ground you in what Anaconda is and what you can do with it. So, okay, I'll take the cheat sheet. Okay. And they say, thank you, it's on its way. That's good. And you can see the download's already going. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause until I have my download, because I don't want you just watching a download. So I'll pause and I'll be back real soon. Okay, well the download's done. Let's go down here to the dock, and I'm going to click on this, and I see in the downloads folder I have this package that is Anaconda 4.3.1, etc. So I'm going to click on that, and a dialog opens up that is the installer. So I'm going to begin by clicking continue. And usually they want you to look at all of the instructions. I'm not going to worry about the instructions too much here. Let's just do continue. And here's the license. Sometimes they want you to look at all the license. I don't think these guys do. And we'll click on continue. Agree to the license. Okay. Install for me only. Install for all users on the computer. Since I'm the only person who uses my computer, and I want it probably to wind up in my in my home directory here, I'm going to say install for me only. So install for me only is just fine, and I'm going to click continue. Okay. It's going to do a standard install. I think that's going to put it in kind of a nice place. And I'm just going to click install. And it doesn't take too long, so I think I'm going to have you watch along with me as it does the work that it does. Not as long as the download. So Anaconda, as you'll see from the cheat sheet, is a lot of different things. It's a lot of different software. And one of the things that's good about it is it's all versions of things that go together. Okay, and this is a big issue. We need versions of things that go together. All right, so it says about 3 minutes. We're going to pause until we get that done. And it didn't really take 3 minutes because this is a pretty fast computer. And it looks to me like we're done with that. So we're just going to close it. And what do I want to do with the Anaconda 3 installer? Well, it's taking up a lot of room on my disk. I think it was about half a gigabyte. And I can move it to trash. Yeah, that's kind of a nice thing to do. It's already installed. Okay. All right, great. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we can run Python and get the version that we chose with Anaconda right away. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, you need to work at the command line, and on macOS to work at the command line, the program you use is terminal. And I don't have a terminal down in my dock that I can simply click on, but I'm going to create one now. There's this launchpad thing, so I know how to find my way to the terminal from there. Of course, I could go to applications and just look for the terminal program, but let's do this is a little more graphical. So I think it's under Other. Yeah. So we click on Other within Launchpad, and here's a terminal. So my mouse is acting a little squirrely. Apologize for that. Okay. So click on Terminal. Okay. And a terminal came up. This is what a terminal looks like, so you can work at the command line. One of the things that I like to do is if there's something that I'm going to be using all the time, I'd like to keep it in the dock. So I go down to the dock, right click on the icon in the dock for terminal, pick options, and then keep in dock. Okay. So even after I close this application, I'm not going to have to go looking for the terminal again. And we're not going to make a lot of use of the terminal, but it's kind of nice to have. Okay. So what is it that we want to do? Well, we want to run Python. And how would that work? Well, at the command line, you simply type Python. So let's do that. Python, all lowercase, enter. And what's happened is it looks pretty good to me because it says it's Python 3.6.0. That was the version we were expecting. It looks like it's part of Anaconda 4.3.1, the 64-bit edition. That's what we were looking for. And we've got copyrights and blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we've got the Python interpreter running now. Those three greater than signs are a command line prompt. And so all we're going to learn how to do today in terms of Python is to get it to print some simple statement. So why don't we just type in print and then in parentheses type hello world. That's an old thing that people would say. Hello, comma, world, exclamation point. Okay? And I'm going to put these, I was putting it in double quotes, but most real Python people use single quotes, which common people call apostrophes. So let's call them apostrophes. So hello world, that character string goes in apostrophes. Okay. My virtual machine's a little gamey here. Okay. So hello world, then we need to close the parentheses. So what are we telling Python? Well, we want it to print, and then we're passing it this thing we call an argument, which is the value that we want to print. And it's hello world, and I see I've got too many of those apostrophes in the beginning. So it's a string of characters, and how does it know that we want to just print a string of characters? Well, because we put it into apostrophes. Okay, well, it looks good. So let's go out to the end. Let's press enter. And look, the Python interpreter did hello world. That is pretty darn good. So if you're going to work ahead in your book, the early chapters of Python books often have code for you to type in at the command line. And you could do it right here. Okay. So that's how you do that. Now, there's one other thing that you could do. First of all, let's get out of here. How do you get out of a Python interpreter? Well, you type exit, E-X-I-T, set of parens, and just enter. And there we are. We are out of Python. Another thing that you'll see in early chapters of Python books is there's a poor person's integrated development environment for Python called IDLE. It's actually named after Eric Idle of Monty Python fame. It turns out that the Python in Python is not from the snake Python, but from Monty Python's Flying Circus. And so, if in fact you want to know how to get to that, well, then you can just get to the command line, which again you do by opening the terminal program, and type in idle, I-D-L-E. And if we wait a second here, it came up behind our window. Okay, so let me minimize that terminal. But this is what the idle IDE looks like. Compared to having to work at the command line, this is a nice piece of software compared to the IDE integrated development environment that we're going to use called PyCharm. Well, this is pretty crummy, actually. But you might want to find your way to it because you might see some examples in a book somewhere that say, open up idle and do such and such. Well, that's how you do it. So, how do we get out of idle? Well, idle is a window-based thing, and it has the little controls for closing it, and we're just going to close our way out of it. Okay? Pretty cool. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to close the, I'm going to open up that terminal and close the terminal. Okay, well, we're part of the way along. Now, where did all that Python code go? Well, why do you ask, Kevin? Well, because once we install the PyCharm IDE, we're going to have to point it to the version of the Python code that we want. So good that we know where it is. All right. So I'm going to open up the Finder, and I'm going to look around a bit, and I'm thinking that probably if I go to my main drive, Macintosh HD, that I'm going to see that there are users, and I know that my username is trainer K. Yours is going to be different. But if I go over here, I'm going to find Anaconda. And here's all the Anaconda software. Okay? So, in a while, when we're doing the install for the PyCharm, we're going to need to find our way to Anaconda. So here it is. It's in my home directory. Why is it there? Well, it's there because I said that just install it for my use on this machine. So things that are just for my use are going to be in my home directory. Okay. And there it is. Pretty good, huh? All right. So Anaconda, all taken care of. Let's back out of this download page for Anaconda and talk a bit about PyCharm. PyCharm is a really cool integrated development environment from a company called JetBrains. And JetBrains has been building these IDEs for a long time. They had one for Java that is very, very popular. And they've had this one for Python for a shorter time, but certainly more than 5 years. And one of the nice things that they do is that they're very accommodating to people who are learning Python. Okay? So there are 2 or 3 different options of what you can install. There is a PyCharm Edu, which is the educational version of PyCharm. That's the one I'm going to be using in all my demos. So that's the one we're going to install now. It's free forever. Okay. Probably there's when you get into it, there may be a promise that you're not going to use it for commercial use, but you can certainly use it for your own use forever. Okay. At the other end of the food chain is something called PyCharm Professional, which is pretty cool. Okay. And PyCharm Professional, once you get the right kind of license, you're able to download really all their software. There's a deal for students. In fact, the link here actually takes us to a link to apply for a free student license at JetBrains. So I'm going to follow that. And if you go through this, if you want to do this, you'll see that provided that you're a student in a university program, you can apply. You click on Apply Now, and you can really install not only PyCharm, okay, but you can install all kinds of things. It turns out that you can install PyCharm Professional, which is the pay version, and you can install PyCharm Edu, which is the free version. Okay, you can even have them on it at the same time. So people who feel kind of like a tech jock and want to go after that, well, you could go try to do that right now. You just have to have an email address that ends in .edu, and I think they'll give you a license for a year. Okay. What I did for my own machine is I did that, and I installed both PyCharm Edu, which is what I'm going to be using for all the tutorials, and PyCharm Professional, which I kind of use for my own stuff. But I'll be showing you that from time to time in class. Okay? So that's if you're feeling adventurous. Okay? If you're not feeling adventurous, then you're going to want to install PyCharm EDU, which is what this tutorial is really all about. So let's click on that, see what that looks like. Okay. Free and easy professional tool to learn programming with Python. And we can get it right here. So let's click on Get PyCharm EDU. And you can see there are 3 versions of this: Windows, macOS, and Linux. It knows I'm on macOS. Isn't that nice? Okay, and I'm just going to download it right here. Okay, and it looks like, for instance, it looks to be version 3.5.1. Okay, now, again, by the time that you get here, and it could be tomorrow, it could be a more recent version. More recent version? Great. But don't go hunting for an older version. Okay? So we're going to download this. Let's do a download. Okay. And okay, just see it being animated now, and it wasn't really too long. I can see it coming down. So we're not going to wait for too long. And then we're going to do the install in just a minute. A watched pot never boils, huh? Here we go. It's boiling a bit. There we go. That's it. So this is a .dmg installer for the Mac. So let's close Safari for right now. Get that out of our way. Go down to downloads. Look. Oh yeah. PyCharm Edu 3.5.1.dmg. So give that a click, and it should fire up the installer. Okay, and like a lot of these installer packages, interaction idiom that you use is you left click on this thing on the left, which represents the software, and you drag it and drop it on the folder on the right, which represents the applications folder. So I'm going to click, drag, drop, and there'll be some copying that'll go on, that kind of stuff. I'm expecting to see a little more action here. Huh? Let me try it again. Pull it, drop it. There we go. Oh, it says it already exists. So I'm fine. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to stop. So it already happened. Didn't give me a lot of affordances to say that it already happened. So, but that's okay. All right. So let's look at that. So I'm going to close the installer. And I have to find the PyCharm edu application, and it's just where the rest of the applications are. Okay. I see we have the installer over here still, so I'm going to eject the installer just for the heck of it so we don't have to look at it. Okay, and then let's go down to the Finder, click the Finder. Say we want to look at the folder for applications. Okay. I like to look at the text version of this. So instead of these icons, I want to look at the text. So here it all is. And there's PyCharm edu. So PyCharm edu is an application. If we want to run it, we double click on it. And what's going to happen? Well, it'll fire up. Now, we don't want to do this every time we run it. So we're going to do that trick where we pick the option to keep that in the dock. So let's double click on this. Say it's okay to open. It is okay to open it. Okay. And you can see down here in the dock, we're already seeing the icon for PE. But I'm hoping we're going to get some other signs of life soon. Possibly they're behind this applications folder. I'm going to minimize that. Oh yeah, it is right there. So I can import my settings from a previous version of PyCharm. Well, if you've already been using PyCharm, perhaps you can do that. But of course, I'm not going to do that because this is the first time on this machine. So I'm going to take the I do not have a previous version option and say OK. Accept the privacy policy. And now see a little installer. OK. And we're going to do a little bit of configuration and we'll be able to take it from there. So I'm going to pause while I get my configuration in order, and I'll be right back. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to create a new project. Okay, now projects are IDE things. These integrated development environments will keep a group of files organized together that are associated with one project. And it typically keeps them in the same related set of directories and all of that kind of stuff. So we definitely want a new project, create new project, so we'll select that. And what's going to happen? Well, it says, here's the location. Okay. So it's under Users Trainer K PyCharm Projects, Untitled. Okay, I could put it there, but I would like someplace to go that's a little bit easier to get to than something in my home folder. So I'm thinking I want to put it in my documents folder. Okay, so how could I do this? Well, let me do this. I click on that little dot 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 icon. Okay. And let's see, users, trainer K. What about documents? Let's give that a double click. Okay. So it's going to go into documents. And then what folder for this project? Well, let's just put a right slash and let's say that we want the folder for this to be called oh, how about we do this? How about we create a folder for our course? Okay. Now, I happen to know what the number of the course is, and I'm teaching this semester, but I want this to have a little bit longer life. So I'm just going to call this one my Python course. Okay. You can describe it however you would like. Okay. And so that's the location. And now we need to find a version of the software that we're going to use. Okay. Oh, by the way, we have to give it a name of the project. So let's just call this practice 00. Okay. That should take care of it. Okay, so that's got the location to put the project. That's fine. It gives it a name too. And now the interpreter that we're going to use, this is not what we're looking for. So let's look at the ones that we can choose from. Okay, so we can choose from Python 2.6, Python 2.7. We don't want either of those two. These are things that came with the Mac. Well, that's nice, but that's not what we want. We want this last one, the Anaconda bin Python. Okay. What's that going to point at? That's actually going to point at the software that is, that's an alias for the software that's in my home directory that we found a little bit earlier with the Finder. Okay, and now let's click on Create. Okay. So this has a kind of an odd name. The project is called Practice 00. And you'll see that it's doing a lot of work now. It's scanning packages and stuff. Okay. That happened pretty fast on mine. Okay. Now, your computer might be a little bit slower. It might take more time to do it. But what it's essentially done is it's going to look through all of the parts of that version of Python that we got with Anaconda and making sure that it knows where all the parts are. Now, how do we know that we are hooked up to the right version of Python? Well, in these external libraries here, let's just click on that icon to drop it down. There it is, Python 3.6.0. It has an alias Anaconda bin Python, and it's really located at users trainer K Anaconda bin Python. That's what we installed. That's where it is. So here's all the Python stuff that we need, and it's the right version because we picked it. All right. Now, it's not really the purpose of this tutorial to teach Python, but of course, if you don't run anything here, you're not going to have any fun. So we're actually going to run our first Python program. All right, and how are we going to do that? Well, there are all kinds of ways in these IDE kinds of programs. You'll find that there are a lot of different options for the way that you get something done. And I'm just going to show you one for right now. Okay, so how do we create a new Python program? And Python programs are actually officially called scripts. So how do we create a new Python script file? Well, we go up and we highlight the name of the project. We right click and we say we want a new, okay, and then we pick Python file. And we have to give it a name, okay? And I'm hoping that you're already sick of Hello World, okay? And a classic one that I like to do is Goodbye Cruel World, okay? And so I'm going to call this one Goodbye. Let's just call it Goodbye for now, okay? Goodbye. Now, you're going to find out that all these Python script files have a file extension of .py, but because this is already set to be a Python file, we don't have to put that on the end of our name. We just type in goodbye. So we click OK. All right. So let's see what we can do. And let's have good habits here, okay? So we're going to be learning a lot of good habits, but one of the good habits that people use is that they typically begin a Python script file with a comment that has the name of the file in it. Why? Because they've always done it. So single line comments start with a pound sign. So we're going to say pound sign. That says that's not really executable code. Space. And put the name of the file. Goodbye.py. Okay. And then let's have another comment that says what the program does. Okay. And again, we're going to start a single line comment with a pound sign, okay, and a space, and we're going to say trivial program to print the sentence, and I'll put this in quotes, goodbye, cruel world. Okay. And maybe that needs an exclamation. Okay. And let's put a period after that. Okay. And now I'm gonna hit enter twice. 1, 2. I wanted a blank line. So it turns out that in Python scripts, white space, blank lines, can be used pretty generously without ill effect. And so that's what we did to get some distance from those initial comments. And we're going to type in the print command, which is going to be the same one that we typed into the Python interpreter back when we were testing out the install for Anaconda. So we're going to type print, okay, and then a left paren, okay, and then we're going to have an apostrophe to surround my character string, and you'll see we got a second apostrophe and we got a close paren for free here, and this is the kind of services you get from these good IDEs. They have lots of typing help. They have lots of help in lots of categories, but typing help is the first thing you're going to discover. So all you have to do is put in a left paren and a one apostrophe, and you get the closing apostrophe and the right paren for free. And what am I going to do? Well, I like that goodbye cruel world I have up here, so I'm just going to left click and highlight that phrase. And I'm going to right click and say copy. And I'm going to go down in between those two apostrophes and I'm going to say paste. Okay. and it says goodbye cruel world. That looks pretty good to me. Okay, so this is a one-line program. Now I can hit enter here, and I just get a new line. Well, that's different from what we saw back when we were working at the command line. When we typed that into the command line and we typed enter, well, we got it. We saw the output. In that case, hello world. Well, we're not at the command line. What we're in is an editor. We're in an editor panel for a new file that's a Python script file called goodbye. And so when we're in the editor and we press the enter key, well, we just get a new line like we would in Microsoft Word or any of the other text editors that we're used to using. So what about things like this? How am I going to save this file? Okay. Well, turns out that it saves automatically. Okay, so it's going to save. We don't have to worry about it. Okay, good. What if I wanted to make sure that it saved? Well, on the Mac, you would hit Command S. Okay, that would force it to save it again. Okay, now that I have a very simple program in here. That's all we're going to learn how to do in this tutorial. How do I run it? Well, the easiest way to do it is that somewhere on your IDE there is a green play button. Now, in the Edu version, which is what I'm doing this tutorial with, it's usually up here in the left gutter to the editor. Okay. In the professional version, it's usually up here in some kind of toolbar. Okay. So let's click on the play button and look down at the bottom. It opens up this thing called the Python console. That's pretty neat. So this kind of works like the command line. So one of the things that you get in an IDE is that you get not only an editor, but you get an execution environment as well. And you don't have to jump from environment to environment to get your work done. We can do some editing, we can do some testing. We can do some editing, we can do some testing. Okay, so let's look at this. What if we want to run it again? Well, we've got two options. Right down here in the console it has a run button. Let's run it again. Yep, ran again, ran again. Okay. Then what if we went back to the editor and clicked on the run button? Yeah, ran again. Ran again. Okay, that's fine. All right, well, that's good. Now, what about things like making changes? Okay. Let's change this. Let's say goodbye, cruel world. Let's add, I am not coming back. Exclamation point again. Okay. All right. Again, is that properly saved? Yeah, that's probably properly saved. What if I'm a little compulsive, which I tend to be, and I want to be sure? Well, Command S. Now it's definitely saved. Okay. What if I want to run the new version? Well, I can click on either of the play buttons. Okay, well, let's click on the one down here in the console. There it is. Goodbye, cruel world, I'm not coming back. Oh, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool indeed. Okay. Now, what if I wanted to close the console? What if I wanted to have more room for editing? Can I close the console? Yeah. If I come down here, if you had a bigger screen that I'm showing right now, you would see the X and on the console controls. But here I just have a kind of a double caret or a caret symbol that says that there are more options, and I see the X. So click on the X, and away it goes. Okay. Now, interestingly, down here there's a little thing that says Python console. It's kind of a tab. Usually if I double click this, it'll open the console. Well, maybe I only had to single click it. Let's double click it again. Yeah, single click it. So if you want to make it the whole screen, you click it again. If you want it to just be at the bottom, you click it there. So I didn't have to double click it. I only had to click it once. Okay, so here, if you open up Python console all by itself, it's kind of like you're at the command line. Okay. All right. So at the command line, remember when we said print hello? That worked. Would that work here? Yeah, that'll work just there. Okay. So what you really have down there in the console is you have a command line, just like we had out in the terminal program, but this is our own little command line right here. Well, that's good. Okay, but what if I want to run my program again? Can I run it again? Well, let's see. Let's try the button down here in the console. All right, that just ran whatever was on that line. Oh, well, maybe I need the button that's up here by the editor. Let's click on that. And that did the right thing. Okay, so run that. What if I wanted to get a new console again? I think we can say that we want to erase this thing. Well, we can say we want to stop it. If I can find it here. There's somewhere where we can, well, I closed that console again. And of course, if I want just a plain console, I can single left click on Python console, and I get back there. I get the console back. All right, so that's it. So let's do a couple things. Let's close the console. Console's closed. Let's close the editor. Again, when you make changes in the editor, it tends to save them automatically. You can use a Command S if you want to force it. Okay. Here's this. Now, let's close the IDE and see what happens when we open it again. Oh, first of all, we did not go down and say that we want it in the toolbar all the time. So go down to the dock, right click on the icon for PE, go to options, keep in dock. All right, that looks good. So now let's close the application. All right, and close that. Okay, and you notice the little dot went away that is underneath the application that says that it's still loaded. The terminal is still loaded, but PE is not. Okay, so let's single click on the PE icon. It's going to open up again. Give us the splash screen. Okay. And we can say we want to create a new project and all that kind of stuff. Or we can come over here and we can pick a project that we want. Well, we've got this practice 00 project. Let's left click on that. And it opens it up. Great. All right, that sounds good. What if we want to look at goodbye.py? Well, that's right here. Let's double click on that. Double left click. And it opens up in the editor. And what if we wanted to run that again? Well, we would run it. So what I recommend to you as you are working in the early chapters of our Python book, or really any Python book, there's really two situations. There are times when they give you an entire Python script they want you to enter and create a .py script file and then execute it. In that case, you're going to use the editor. Okay. And there are times when they want you to just type in some stuff at the console to see how it works. And you can do that by creating a console. Okay, so you pretty well can do anything that the textbook is enticing you to do right here in PyCharm. So even though it's possible to go out in the command line, the terminal program for the Mac, and crank up the Python interpreter, you don't have to. Because if you need a console, if you need a command line, open a command line. So let's close the command line. Let's close the editor. Okay, say if we just want a console, go down on console, left click, there's your command line. Okay, let's say we want to create a new Python script file. Just highlight the name of the project like we did before, right click, say new Python file, and away you go. Give it the proper name and take that. So being able to do this should carry you till we meet again. I hope that all goes well, and I'm going to say bye until next time. Bye-bye.